In the opening prayer for Mass, sort of the opening prayer of Advent, if you're not listening closely, you might miss it, but there's a real profound little sentence in there. A prayer for us that says, "Run forth to meet your Christ with righteous deeds at his coming." It's a prayer to the Father. Run forth to meet your Christ with righteous deeds at his coming. In our world, there is a reality, a sad reality that probably has touched all of you in some way or another. The sadness and the reality of a broken family, oftentimes manifested as a divorce in the family. And for whatever reason, divorces happen. Sometimes, sadly enough, they are necessary. But when divorce happens, it's usually, in my experience, the people that pay the highest price are the children. And often working with teenagers most of my adult life, and I know many of them that would go back and forth between households, between the custody arrangement. Oftentimes the mother or father gets total custody of the children. But if they're small especially, sometimes something beautiful happens, because a child, no matter what the circumstances of the divorce, wants their parents to be together. They want that. They dream about it. They fantasize about it. And oftentimes, when Daddy comes to visit, they get very excited. Daddy's coming. Daddy's coming to visit. Sometimes they even get excited just because he'll sometimes bring gifts as he visits his children in a broken family. There's even a song that came out about 20 years ago about a young boy or a young girl, I don't know which it is, but Daddy's coming to visit. Mom is involved in another relationship. And the title of the song is, "I Don't Call Him Daddy." And the chorus goes something like this as he sings to his father. "I don't call him Daddy, but he takes care of things. Will you pick me up on Friday? Will you bring me anything?" This is the reality of many families because there was a divorce. But in the life of the church and salvation history, we have to admit that there was a divorce in the Garden of Eden. And whether you're a Bible scholar or not, or you're well read in the Bible, everybody knows that story because it is packed with reality. People say, "Well, was that real?" Oh yeah, it's real. It manifests itself every day. When Adam and Eve were one, and something came between them, there was a divorce. But John Paul II, he even would take this deeper. He said when a rupture happened, when that rupture in that marriage happened, it wasn't just between Adam and Eve. There was a fourfold rupture that we learn about. The first rupture is the one we know about. Adam and Eve, they were once together, almost one flesh, and suddenly there was tension between them. And we still experiencing that today, where there's tension between men and women. Women often have to protect themselves. There is a tension, and if you don't think there's a tension, just remember what junior high was like. It was thick with tension. But also there was a rupture between man and nature. Adam was the master of his realm. He did not fear nature. Now we know there's hurricanes, tornadoes, they can kill you. And nature has now become aggressive, and we have to protect ourselves. There was a rupture between man and himself. All of a sudden, we're tempted to do things that are not good for us. That's a rupture. We're tempted to do things that might kill us. Even St. Paul talks about this when he says, "I do the thing I don't want to do. I do the thing that is bad for me." Why? It comes from that original rupture. But the most profound rupture that happened was a rupture between man and God. Because in the garden, he was like thick with them. And then there was this distance that God took thousands of years to prepare. But the good news is, as we celebrate and remember at Advent, that divorce, that great divorce, that God is always trying to heal it. And he begins with his son. Because Daddy's coming. He's coming to be reconciled. And he does so, as we remember with our older brothers, the Jewish people, as they waited for the Messiah to come. They knew the rupture had happened, but God was coming to save them. He was coming to reconcile with them. And so at Advent, we have a twofold character of Advent. We remember with our Jewish brothers and sisters as we wait for the Messiah to come. But we know as Christians, Christ will come again. And that ultimate judgment, that ultimate reconciliation, we'll get to have that Eden again, where we're together with God. But we remember in these next few weeks of Advent, now I know there's 4 candles up there, but really we only have about 3 weeks and about 6 hours of Advent this year. The 4th Sunday of Advent is actually Christmas Eve. And yes, you got to go to Mass twice. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. But we know that there were some people in Jesus' time that did prepare. They were ready. They had stayed awake. The first one we're going to hear about is John the Baptist, who spent his life preparing the way for Jesus' ministry. From the moment he was in the room, jumping, doing backflips in his mama's womb, he was preparing the way for the Messiah. When he would point to him and say, he is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. I must decrease and he must increase. And it cost him his life. He prepared well, because he knew Daddy was coming. We'll hear about Simeon, who grabs Jesus as a baby and thanks God because he's been waiting. He's waiting. Now I can go in peace because I knew you told me I would see the Messiah. He spent his life in joyful waiting. And in about a month or so, we'll read about those mysterious wise men, the Magi, who weren't even Jewish, who read the stars and said, something's happening. Some kind of God event is going on. Let's go see him. Let us travel to see him. And we'll celebrate that with them too. But we also know that there were people who were not prepared, who resented Christ's coming. And we'll read some terrible things about King Herod and the things that he did and how he was full of hatred and jealousy that some other king was going to come and push him out. Daddy was coming, and it wasn't good for Herod. Some were ready, some were not. But here we're asked to be like little children. Run forth to meet your Christ. Run forth like children. Daddy's coming. The Father is revealing himself with gifts. He's coming with gifts. But he asks us to come running to him with righteous deeds. With righteous deeds. So what are those righteous deeds we can prepare for the Lord's coming? First is having a profound prayer life. To be generous and to go to confession. To not be distracted. Now, in these next 3 weeks, everything about our culture is going to want to distract you. I saw my first Christmas commercial like in September. And Walmart even had a Christmas section like in August. That's ridiculous. They've totally stolen Advent because they want your money. They want your money. But everything in us is going to be distracted. You know, one of the good things I think that has kind of come up in Advent is people have lots of Christmas parties. And I think that's good, okay? But there's a new tradition that I think is kind of healthy. I have about 6 Christmas parties I got to go to between now and the 25th, okay? But at each one of those, we have gifts exchanges. And I didn't buy any expensive gifts. We brought gag gifts. My gag gift is I give a portrait of me and my dog to everybody in the room. And what I think is cool about that is everybody brings a gag gift. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's about the actual gift exchange. It's fun. It's fun, and we get to laugh because we remember that there's a greater gift on the way. And to not be distracted. It's okay to exchange silly gifts. One time my family and we exchanged gifts, and everybody could only spend like $1 or $2. We gave each other Matchbox cars or whatnot. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And actually that midnight mass was one of the most profound I ever been to, because we had decreased the commercial part and increased the spiritual part, because Daddy was coming. Our Father was coming, and he wanted to reconcile with us. And once again, to remember, when Jesus comes, he does come bearing gifts. What does he bring? He brings a church with him. He founds a church. He brings the sacraments with him. All 7 of them are manifested in Jesus Christ, the bridegroom. He brings salvation with him on the cross. And that was that little, what we call the Triduum of Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday. He gives us the fullness of himself in the Eucharist and in his blood. And on that cross, he gave us even a final parting gift. He gave us his mother. He fully equipped us. And all he asks is us to come running to him with our arms wide open. But in these next few weeks, you're going to be tempted to go on Amazon.com and go to the mall and do shopping. Pray through those things. Pray through those things. Because a divorce is about to be undone. A relationship is about to be healed. And our Lord is waiting for us, and he wants us to be standing and waiting for him, ready to meet him. Because I know I don't have any children of my own, but I do remember going to my sister's house and that awesome feeling of Uncle Johnny's here. And they would come up and hug my legs. They don't do that anymore. But there was something kind of neat about that. And sometimes they'd even prepare and even draw me pictures, bad pictures with crayons. But there was something special there. They had prepared for me to come. But St. Paul gets pretty graphic in what the people of his time were all caught up in, that they missed the coming of Christ. And he gets pretty graphic. He says, don't be involved in drunkenness, lust, promiscuity, rivalry, and jealousy. Not much has changed. Not much has changed. These are the things that distract. These are the things the devil puts in front of you. That's what he does. That's all he can do. Because he doesn't want you sitting waiting as a loving child, because Daddy's coming. I'd like to leave you with one more image. This is one of the things that I guess I could say I experienced the first time unconditional love. Our parents, our families love us unconditionally, but they don't always like us, and we don't always like them. That's being human. But when I was a boy, we had a mutt dog, mutt we found on the street, and her name was Sally. And Sally would wait at the window at our front of our house every day when we came home from school. We would see her on the bus. We'd see her sitting in the window, and then she'd take off, and she'd meet us at the door. She'd be spinning around. She'd lick our faces. She'd beat us to death with her tail because it'd be going like this. And that's how she greeted us. And one time, we went on vacation for about 10 days. And my grandparents had to come and, house sit or dog sit. And as we pulled up in the station wagon, we saw her in the window. She took off. We met her, same thing, spinning around, yelping, licking and kissing us, beating us to death with her with her tail. And my grandfather said, "Your dog's been at that window for 10 days. Now, we didn't bring her any treats. We weren't always that kind to her. But it reminds us that we are even more special. We are not dogs. We are made in the image and likeness of Christ. And he comes as one of us, and he will come as one of us. And all that he asks is that we greet him with open arms ready to reveal the Father to us, to make present the Father among us, to give us access to Daddy, who he called Abba, which means Daddy. Because Daddy's coming. He is coming, and then at Christmas Day, and for all those days of Christmas when Walmart's taking down their decorations and everybody's having their after Christmas sale, we can say, Daddy's not coming, Daddy's here. He is home. Let us prepare well for that great day. Let us run forth and let him see us with arms open wide, ready to greet him with righteous deeds. Because he loves us that much, and he wants to greet us and take us home with him.